Welcome to the Evolve Talent and HR Show. I'm Anna Morgan, your career BFF, known as the rescuer of dogs and careers, but now the creator of the Evolve Talent and HR experience. My career has been one big series of unexpected plot twists that now have landed me in the world of events for the recruitment and HR industry. Evolve was born from a desire to build heart-centered spaces for leaders to show up boldly and learn together. This show is for the modern day employee, a people-first leader. Individual contributors, managers, executives, practitioners, entrepreneurs, and fractional leaders who care deeply about humans and are not afraid to do work differently. If you influence how people are hired, developed, led, and supported, you belong here. On this show, you're going to hear conversations with talent acquisition leaders, HR business partners, event organizers, sponsors, speakers, and attendees who are passionate about building human-centered, connected, and creative workplaces. So if you're ready for something a little bit different, community, fresh energy, and practical inspiration that you can use right away, you're in the right place. This is the Evolve Talent and HR Show. Let's dive in.
If there's anybody better situated in the organization to lead transformation and disruption, it's human resources. And I will defend that as well.
I am happy to die on that hill with you because I actually do believe it. HR has so much power. Most leaders think influence is something you earn by doing good work and waiting to be noticed. Jennifer McClure has spent her career proving that's not enough. She's a globally recognized keynote speaker, future of work strategist, and founder of DisruptHR, a movement that's now in over 30 countries. Today, we're live at Evolve 2026 in Atlanta, talking about why the leaders who get ahead are the ones that know what they want to be known for. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you today.
Amazing. Oh, and if we haven't met yet, I'm Rhona Pierce, host of the Workfluencer podcast. But today, I'm taking over the Your Career BFF podcast live at Evolve 2026 in Atlanta. So for those who haven't met you yet, what's the Jennifer story in 30 seconds?
Oh man, 30 seconds. It's so impactful. Jennifer spent about the first 20 years of her career in human resources, always with recruiting responsibilities, generalist responsibilities. Then she took a tour through executive search for about 4 years. And then in 2010, I stepped out on my own, started my own company called Unbridled Talent, where I'm a professional speaker. I talk about high impact leadership, strategic HR, and we throw in a little personal branding there on the side. DisruptHR started in 2013, and so I also do that as well, and I'm the Chief Excitement Officer of DisruptHR.
I love that title.
Self-appointed. My business partner sent me the articles of incorporation, and he said, "You're the CEO." And I said, "Well, I'm already the CEO of a one-person company, so let's get a little creative with this one." So I'm glad I did, because I think it actually describes my role with DisruptHR, where I'm not DisruptHR. It's the local organizers, the leaders, the speakers that show up on the stages around the world. And I'm there to hype them up and to get their ideas out in the world. So I chose well.
Amazing. So you have this phrase, Chief Disruption Officer, to describe what HR leaders should be in their organizations. What does that actually mean? And what does that look like when people do it well?
I believe that human resources, the reason why I was sharing with someone at lunch earlier today that I chose HR, I actually chose HR as my profession, is because as a very young 21-year-old looking at the world of work, I felt like human resources was the most important position in the organization. You might say, why, if you don't feel that way? I felt like HR was the most important role in every organization because people who are in HR have the opportunity to have influence and impact over everyone in the organization. The work that we do in HR touches all employees, whether that's benefits, policies, procedures, employee relations. We're helping to set the talent strategy. It impacts everyone in the organization. I think much more so than any other position, and I'll stick to that. I'll defend that. After years of doing HR myself, I fully believe that and always felt like I had opportunities to play that role. But in today's world, now I say that the Chief Disruption Officer of every organization, whether you have that official title or not, should be the HR person. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you view it, if you want that role, it's because of where you sit in the organization in HR. You're at the intersection of people, culture, systems, and processes. That stuff revolves around HR and the work that we do. So if there's anybody better situated in the organization to lead transformation and disruption, it's human resources. And I will defend that as well.
I am happy to die on that hill with you because I actually do believe it. HR has so much power. And I think part of the reason why I've always said HR has a perception problem and a visibility problem.
True.
And I know part of what you do is help leaders figure out what they want to be known for. And that sounds simple, but I'm pretty sure it's not. What makes this question so hard for people to answer?
I think, what you want to be known for maybe sounds better to people than personal brand or that kind of talk, which is, what a lot of people call it, because people will push back at the idea of, well, I'm not a tube of toothpaste. I don't need to figure out how to market myself on a shelf. Okay, you're not a tube of toothpaste, but you do have things that you want to do more of than others. You have interests, you have skills and talents and abilities. And unless you figure out how to communicate that to people and to share what you're working on and to share your successes, they won't know how to help you navigate in your career. You can only advocate for yourself for opportunities, for the ability to work on cross-functional teams, for the ability to lead a project, if you know the type of work that you want to do and that you don't, so that you don't ask to lead up the project to handle the IT systems, would not be me. But if we want to talk about where we're going as an organization and the type of people that we need to hire, I want to be in that conversation. But hopefully the work that I do and how I communicate the work that I do and the moves that I make, people can see that, and other people in the organization will also advocate for me because I'm pretty clear on what I do well and what I want to focus on.
Many times when people hear personal branding, they're thinking about the external. They're thinking about like posting on LinkedIn, stuff like that. I love that your examples that you've mentioned are really a lot about internal.
Yeah.
Your personal brand also helps you internally. And I think that's really where you start building it and really start knowing what you say externally. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think with anything, we need to understand ourselves first so that we can take charge and take the lead in our career. Laurie Rudiman, who did the keynote here today, talks about, betting on you. Well, you can only bet on you and go all in on something if you know what it is that you want. There are too many people, I've certainly been there myself in the past, but too many people that view their career and their life as kind of out of their control. But often, especially at work, well, I just go in and I just do a good job every day. And, the favorites always get promoted and I don't get promoted. And it's politics, it's, racism, it's whatever. We come up with a lot of reasons. And in some cases, there are some, external circumstances that can negatively impact us. But we come up with a lot of reasons why we're not getting what we want. When often the reasons we're not getting what we want is that we're not communicating what we want. And to your point, people will say, I don't want to write, I'm not a thought leader. I don't want to post on LinkedIn. And my pushback to them is share what you're working on. Come to a conference like Evolve and share what you learned. You attended 3 or 4 sessions. What were some of your takeaways? Share that on LinkedIn. Number one, you're helping other people. You're sharing what you know, which is the easiest way to build a brand, share what you know. And you're also, in the sense, getting people to say, well, Jennifer writes a lot about human resources or disrupting HR or being a strategic leader. And when I need to know more about that, I'm going to check Jennifer out, or I might work with her. Or if I'm in, if I'm working in the corporate world, I want to recruit her, But even again, a lot of people will say, they'll push back, well, I'm not looking for a job elsewhere. I'm very happy where I am. Great. But people inside your company pay attention to those things as well. And there are opportunities every day that are getting bandied around in your company. Again, whether it's just for meaningful work or for promotion or for even cross-lateral moves or whatever that might be. People need to know what you want. And the best person to advocate for that is you.
You mentioned many examples of why people don't move forward or don't get the things that they want. How do you know if it's because of true structural and systemic things that are happening that are external to you, or if it's just, I'm not doing the work, I'm not visible enough.
You have to talk to other people. Hopefully, you seek out mentors for yourself in your organization. If you have a good relationship with your boss, hopefully you're getting good feedback. But part of it is asking for feedback. It's not sitting around and saying, well, I have my performance review and my boss didn't say this and didn't say that. What you need to be saying is, let's say you want to be a leader, you want to maybe, be a better communicator in the organization. You should be asking your boss, if again, that relationship is good, your peers, pick someone to be a mentor to you, internal, external, and say, when you see me speaking in front of groups, what's some feedback that you would give to me? What are some things that I could do better? Do you see things that I could improve on? Actively seeking out feedback is the best way to get it. Those people that just stay internal and wait to receive feedback, they're the ones that have conspiracy theories about everything. Well, I didn't get this promotion because so-and-so doesn't like me, or they're not getting the feedback that they need in order to actually get to where they want to go. And I want to be clear when I say mentors, I've always told people, you don't have to go up to somebody. And actually, I don't recommend going up to somebody in the organization or another person that you respect and say, would you be my mentor? Because I've been asked that a lot, and I don't have the capacity to mentor people. Plus, I get paid to coach people. So,
Yeah.
We can talk about a coaching relationship. I have mentors I've never met. Mentors, again, that I've followed online for years. I've watched their videos. I've read their books. Laurie Rudiman, again, I'll mention her, my friend. I started following her when she was an anonymous blogger online, and I've learned so much from her over the years. I would call Laurie a mentor. Now she's also a friend. But if I'd never met her, I would have learned so much from her. So there's real opportunities, I think, to get both learning from other people, but we have to be specific and go to people and ask. Ask for not just how'd I do, but be specific in the ask. When you saw me leading this team meeting today, what do you think I did well? And then what could I do better? And you have to sometimes push people to give you negative feedback, or not negative, helpful, constructive feedback. So you have to ask the right questions. When I speak on stages, a lot of times people will come up to me afterwards, and they have questions or whatever. They might go, oh, that was really good. Well, of course, I like to hear that too. But I remember one of the first times I spoke to a large group here in Atlanta at a conference. It was the largest group I'd ever spoken to. It was like 2,700 people. And afterwards, there were a lot of people came up for questions. And when I was, so relieved it went well, and I'm walking out and people had come up and told me it went well. And there was a gentleman who had waited for me to come out after, everybody else had left. And he said, I just want you to know, I really enjoyed your talk today or whatever. And he said, I'm also a professional speaker. And, I saw this, and this. And I said, thank you for that feedback. I said, but since you're also a speaker, can you tell me one thing you think I could have done differently to be even better? Again, he'd given me positive feedback. And he said, good question. Maybe he said, you said a lot of things that were funny. And he said, what I'd encourage you to do is to take a pause and allow the audience to laugh. Well, that was specific feedback that I've never forgotten. But again, I had to ask the right question. Otherwise, I would have just gotten good job.
I love that. And I also love the whole, don't ask people like, can you be my mentor? Don't wait for someone to say yes to be your mentor. You can, and this day and age, there's so much information out there. There's so many ways to learn from people without, like you said, even necessarily having to know them.
Mm-hmm.
And I know your talk today was about leading through the AI shift without losing your people. What's a conversation that you wish more leaders were having and they're not having?
Around AI in particular, I wish more leaders were having the conversations about how we can view AI as an enhancement to people's work, an empowerment tool to people's work. I think we have seen, and we're starting to see some of the repercussions of viewing it as an efficiency tool, as a productivity tool. That means job cuts, that means the opportunity to reduce headcount, versus how can we incorporate AI into the work that we're doing and ask our people to look for ways to eliminate that, repetitive work that can be done by AI, but not to be afraid of doing that, because we also want them at the same time to be looking for where they can spend that time to do more value-added work. So if we're constantly pushing the idea of enhancing your work, this is an empowerment tool to free you up to do the things that only you can do, versus having people live with the fear of, well, if I figure out how to use AI to do 10% of my job, then they're not going to need me anymore, or 50% of my job, which for some people it will be. But we should also be encouraging our people to tell us what you can do more of. Tell us how you could add more value. Back to personal branding. What have you been focused on that you know is an aspirational move for you? Maybe this is an opportunity for us to give you some skills in other areas. And the leaders in our organization, we as leaders, need to be viewing it, I think, in that way. And I hope that we're starting to see that shift, that we lead with what is the work that only humans can do, instead of leading with what is the work that AI can take away from humans. Because it both can happen, but one is more valued than others.
I love that reframe. And I agree. I think leaders should really start thinking about it in that way. And I don't know about you, but I'm hopeful. I think that we're past that like initial, oh my gosh, we're all doing AI. And now people are starting to think about it in more of like, how do we do this as a complementary thing and not like immediately replacing everyone? Would you agree?
Yeah, I see huge opportunity for AI. I mean, someone brought up in the session, it's the same as when the internet came along. For those of us that were alive then, which you guys probably weren't.
I was.
You're a babe. But the internet came along and it was like, oh, the world has changed forever and, nobody's going to have a job anymore. And the robots are coming. The robots have been coming for our jobs for a long time. The truth is the robots took over some jobs. And those were jobs that, maybe a lot of humans had spent years deteriorating their bodies doing that, in the long run, maybe it was better for humans. Those same humans who maybe they worked on an assembly line in an automotive plant and the robot can now screw in the bolt, 1,000 times a day with accuracy and not get carpal tunnel. Again, the companies that said, great, let's get rid of the humans and put in the robots, instead of saying, how do we reskill the humans who are already a fit with our culture, who already have been here and care about our company and our products? What jobs are freed up now that only the humans can do? And we'll let the robots screw in the bolts. And unfortunately, some humans don't want to be reskilled. Maybe they're kind of like, I've screwed bolts for 40 years and that's all I ever want to do with my life. Okay, well, go look for your bliss. But if we offer them the opportunity to reskill, or again, smart HR leaders who have so much opportunity for impact should be looking out and saying, what types of skills do we need that we don't have today? What types of skills are transferable that maybe they did use this in this job, but we no longer need that there, but we need it over here? How do we help people make that transition? Are our systems set up to look internally for people that we can reskill, upskill, instead of saying we have to go, because it's actually not possible anymore, to just go out and hire off the street somebody who's got all the skills all the time? And it will be less and less because the world of work is changing so fast. The skills are changing so fast. All of us are going to have to be constantly upskilling, reskilling. So we need to make that a real part of our talent strategy. Again, we bring in AI, we bring in the robots, it takes something away. But now what skills do we need to add to the humans who we want to stay?
Love that. Going back a little to our conversation about just building influence in general, what's one thing viewers can do this week to start building the type of influence that outlasts their current role?
Oh, good question. To build influence that outlasts your current role. Again, I think the people that you remember and that I remember from my career are people that I learned from. So I go back to teach what you know and identify what it is that you're interested in and that you either know or want to know more of, and then share. Whether that's writing, and LinkedIn's a great place to post, or if you have a blog or a website or a Substack, whatever that is today, share what you know. And when you have the opportunity, back to mentoring, I've never had a conversation where I've gone to someone and asked them to be my mentor, and no one has ever come to me and volunteered to be my mentor. But I can tell you who my mentors are. I know who they are. And many of them were people who saw something in me and adopted me. So they came to me as someone that they saw with promise, and they said, I'm going to invest in her. I'm going to sponsor her versus mentor her. I'm going to make sure she gets in rooms and gets the opportunity to do this. And so those of us that want to leave a legacy or have influence, are you constantly looking for people in your sphere of influence? Whether that's, I find people online all the time. And I'm not going to say I'm better than any of these people, but I'll use an example. Julie Turney is someone that many years ago I started seeing her on Twitter, and then she started posting online. Julie is an HR person, or was at the time an HR person, who's in Barbados. And I loved what Julie had to say. And so I wanted to know Julie, even if it was only virtually. And since then, we've had several Zoom calls. We finally met in person a couple of years ago when I went to Barbados to actually speak at their HR conference. She has the DisruptHR license in Barbados and in Jamaica and in Trinidad and Tobago. And so I know Julie really well now. But whenever someone asks me about who's a good speaker for HR leaders, or whenever I'm asked by a vendor, who should we be partnering with that has a good audience of HR leaders, I mention Julie's name. And she will always comment if I do that, on LinkedIn or something. Thank you for mentioning my names in rooms that I'm not in. And I think anybody can do that. You can be an entry-level employee and be looking for people who want opportunities that either you're hearing about or you have access to, and you can bring those people in and make sure they get the opportunity to do what they want.
I love that. I really love this conversation. Where can listeners connect with you?
They can find me on LinkedIn at Jennifer McClure. I always say, if you put in Jennifer McClure to LinkedIn and I don't come up first, something's wrong, because I've been there forever. I've laid down my claim to LinkedIn. But you should see me. It says I'm the CEO of DisruptHR, or Chief Excitement Officer of DisruptHR and Umbrella Talent. And I have a website, jennifermcclure.net, where you can find out all about my speaking and some of my blogs, and what I've shared in the past and how I think.
Amazing. And we'll share all of that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for the opportunity to chat with you.
Thank you for joining me today on the Evolved Talent and HR Show. I'm Anna Morgan, always your career BFF. And my intention here is simple: to create brave, fun, and high trust spaces for people first leaders so that they can connect, learn, and also remember that they are not alone in this work. So if today's episode gave you a moment of relief, made you laugh, or gave you that spark to just keep going, then we are doing our job. Until next time, please keep showing up boldly, keep caring about humans, and always keep evolving. Bye.